All right. Say the name of the title again. What is this?
The Creator Equation.
All right. And what is this? Tell us about it.
The Creator Equation is something I came up with over the years I've created content because I've noticed that there was something that was lacking at some point in time. Whether you are just starting out or you've been doing it for a decade, one of these three things you are going to be lacking if you're not being successful right now. If you're looking at where your life is and you don't think you're quite at the success level that you want to be at, you're missing something in this equation. So let me go over it real quick. Strategy plus automation times execution. That equals success. If you don't have the right strategy, you're not going to put out content at the right amounts. You're not going to figure out where do I need to be, how many times do I need to post in those places, that kind of thing. If you don't have automation to help you, and not just talking about just AI, just even automation in general, like using Nuelink to schedule out your posts. Anytime I make a new YouTube video or anything like that, it goes out automatically across my socials, using automation to help you be consistent. And then finally, how hard are you working? And that is the execution factor. That's where a lot of creators actually fail, and that's where I've failed in the past. I've usually had a pretty good strategy since the beginning, but I wasn't always good at executing on that strategy. And then at some points, I need a new strategy, and I hadn't gone around redoing it, so I had to switch to that one. At some points, I couldn't find the right social media management tool, so I didn't have the right automation. So at some point, I'm not making excuses, I'm just explaining that these are the factors that created the issues I was facing. So understanding that equation and trying to make sure you can keep going.
Okay, so tell me again, strategy plus automation?
Strategy plus automation times execution equals success.
I love it. I love it. Well, how would you like to approach this next part?
I think that we should probably break it down to each one. I'm trying to think about how to go about that.
Can I help you?
Sure, let's go about that.
Okay, so let's talk about strategy. What does strategy look like? Is it understanding what their goals are with their content? Is strategy understanding, like articulating their goals? Could you talk about that a little bit?
In order to understand what your strategy is, you do have to understand what your goals are. Are you trying to become a YouTuber, a blogger, or a podcaster? When you are creating content, you start off with one of these pillar types. Eventually, you might expand to the rest of them. And I think that you really should be doing all three at some point to some capacity, even if it's just repurposed from your other piece of the content. I like to do all three natively, but that's just what I feel like doing. So my strategy includes doing all three. Your strategy may be different, and that's okay. After that, you have to figure out, are you doing long form pieces of the content, short form pieces of the content, or are you doing live streams like we're doing now? And again, at some point, you'll end up probably doing all three. I'm still kind of nervous on live streams, but that's something I'm working on getting better and better on doing. I've been making long form content for a long time, then I moved to short form, then I moved to live. That has been my strategy. I started off with long so I can kind of get that SEO, get that knowledge management, thought leadership, stuff like that.
How do people even decide which category they should be in? Is it what they can create a certain type of content fast? Is it just, tell me more about this.
It is what they create naturally. And so you're not going to really know what you're going to be good at until you have done it. And so Roberto Blake talks about this a lot. You need to put in 100 reps. And I know that Gary Vee has said something similar to it too. Putting in 100 reps in that pillar piece that you're used to, whether it's making videos or writing blog posts or doing podcasts, whatever you feel is like the one you want to go for. If you want to become a YouTuber, then you have to start making YouTube videos. If you want to become a podcaster, you have to actually start talking into the mic. If you want to write, then write. I do suggest, this might be the polymathy side of things, that people should do all three in the beginning to figure out what they like. So if you know for a fact you want to do video, or you're very confident in that, then maybe just do the first 100 reps and just go straight through it. However, if you are in a place of not really knowing where it's at, my strategy is to do 33 of each. You do 33 posts of video, 33 posts of written, 33 posts of audio, and you figure out which one do you enjoy making, then you stop the other two and focus on finishing 100 of the one that you like. Once you get to 100, then you can start expanding beyond that. That's usually when people start making shorts instead of long, or vice versa. If they're doing 100 live streams, they realize, oh, I need to market my stuff more, so you start making TikToks or YouTube videos of your live streams. That's where repurposing kind of starts coming in, and that's where the strategy starts to level up more and more. At the beginning, it's just figuring out what you need, then you expand to the other pillar types and the other formats, and then beyond that, you start to be more omni-channel.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, you're saying start by creating 100 pieces of content. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
100 pieces of content, and then if I'm also hearing, because we're talking about AI and we're using all of these different clips, could I create a live stream and then just use something like Transcript and strip it and then create it into a blog post, create it into an audio experience for a podcast? Is that cheating, or is that something that you still think that's a way around this?
It is not cheating, no. In fact, it actually is a good idea. However, you're not really going to know what is a good podcast unless you have made it, for the most part. I started doing that in the past where I was making YouTube videos and then cutting out the audio into podcasts. And I still do that from time to time, especially for like interviews. We could do that right now with this. However, our tonality, the way we explain things, we're using visuals right now to describe what we're saying. But if we weren't articulating what those visuals look like, then the audio podcast is not going to be very good and no one's going to really want to listen to it, so you're not going to be able to follow along to the visuals that aren't there. And so when you're creating content with the purpose of repurposing it into an audio cast, right? If you're creating video content with the purpose of that, you need to take that into account in order to make sure you are creating good video and good audio.
The flip side of that, if this is overwhelming, to me anyway, if you're like, well, I want to just try podcasting, but you're like, I feel overwhelmed with what Dustin said. If you just strip the audio and just see if it's any traction or see what happens, but don't allow it to be such a thing that it's a blocker that you just don't do it just because you're like, well, I can't do something original in that format. That's the beauty of AI as well.
Well, even if you are live streaming and your point is to make an audio cast, then your mindset is of making an audio cast from the get-go anyways. You're just live streaming in order to do it like we are right now. That's okay. I'm just saying you just want to make sure that the actual audio and the things you're describing is very effective when people are listening in.
Erica says, from weekly peer group meetings, I get a LinkedIn newsletter, an email, a Medium blog post, and a LinkedIn company page post. Also video and audio clips. I love it. Looking at what is your goal? Do you want to be a YouTuber, podcaster, blogger? You're going to look at a form. What would you like to do? The type of content, long form, short form, live streams. And then you're going to create 100 pieces of content. Is that all wrapped up in the strategy? Did we miss anything or
I
more
just want
things?
to go back over the levels one last time. I'm still thinking in the case of a beginner. If you are just getting started out, you're going to be kind of a little bit nervous about this. And that's why the 100 reps is so key, because you're not going to know what you're doing right or wrong until you've actually done the reps. Someone can tell you, but that's after you've already done it. And so you got to really think about it in the big picture. The 100 reps is not that much. It really isn't. And that's going to take time. I don't care if it takes you 100 days or 10 years to do 100 reps. That's okay as long as you get around doing them. The reason why I explained it in this way is because of the empathy. I know how hard it is. I didn't like being on camera when I first started doing videos. In fact, I was really nervous about looking into the camera. I couldn't do it without stuttering very much. Like now I'm looking into the iris of the camera to make sure it looks like I'm looking at the guest or the person watching this video. And now I'm using hand gestures. I feel comfortable. Even on live streams, like I said earlier, I'm still kind of nervous about doing them because I'm just not used to it. But now I've had maybe 18 live streams under my belt. I'm getting more and more comfortable. After 100 live streams, I'm not going to have any more issues. So I started out blogging, then I did podcasting, and then I did video. And then I did short form video. And so I actually did that same trajectory that I've been talking about. I just really was trying to speed up the process for myself, and I figured other people would want to do that too.
With the 100 pieces of content, do you have a way for them to just get started right now? Is it them to pick, hey, write out on a piece of paper what you are, write down what you're going to be doing? How do you get them as a beginner to get started fast?
I talk a lot about some of that in the other videos I make when it comes to like how do you get started as a content creator. The creator equation video that we're working on right now, that's really just meant to show you what is the way to success. And that's why I wanted to make this video, because I wanted to kind of get started with that. The first thing is make 5 pieces of content. That way you start off with a little bit of a pool, and you could post 3 at first, then schedule out 2 of them so you have a little bit of buffer. And once you do that, then you have basically the beginning that you needed. You pick read and audio video, make 5 pieces of content. That's your start.
Love it.